Your party watches as a massive, scaly beast descends on them, its thunderous footsteps shaking the earth. It lets out a blood-curdling roar. That's right, it's that classic D&D monster, the Tyrannosaurus Rex. Wait, you thought it was a dragon? Come on, dragons have wings. Try to keep up. I freely admit that the first time I learned there were dinosaurs in D&D, I was a little surprised. They feel kind of out of place, right? I see a lot of people say, oh, so you can accept elves and gelatinous cubes, but dinosaurs are a bridge too far? At least they were actually real. And sure, they were real once. But even though medieval fantasy isn't modern, it's still not dinosaur times. Like, we're 65 million years post-extinction now. So if you do the math, knights and castles were 65 million years post-extinction. In the grand scheme of things, that was basically yesterday. Not to mention that dinosaurs lived on Earth for around 200 million years. So not only did humans never coexist with dinosaurs, a lot of species of dinosaurs never even coexisted with each other. Stegosaurus and T-Rex are farther apart in time than me and T-Rex. Tend to see dinosaurs more in science fiction than in fantasy, so it's no wonder they can feel like they're kind of outside the genre. But also, if there's one thing that we can all still agree on, it's that dinosaurs are rad. So how do we incorporate them into our games in a way that feels fun and makes sense? To help us answer that question, today's sponsor has sent me this book, Dr. Drolin's Dictionary of Dinosaurs. It's a complete illustrated guide for bringing real-world paleontology into 5th edition, created by a team of actual scientists. I love a book that makes me sound like I know what I'm talking about. For people who want to fight the dinosaurs, there are more than 55 Mesozoic creatures, over 100 if you include their magical variants, because if you're going to put dinosaurs into a fantasy world, you might as well. For people who want to play a character with dinosaur flavor, there are new backgrounds, subclasses, feats, and a dinosaur-kin playable species. And for people who want to ride the dinosaurs, I won't kink shame you. Out loud. It's got rules for taming, domesticating, and using dinosaurs as mounts. They also just launched a Kickstarter for a second book, Professor Primula's Portfolio of Paleontology, with even more dinosaur goodness, including new creatures, environments, and even rules for running your own fantasy museum, which is great because I only know one rule for museums. First one goes to Blathers. Links for all this are in the description. You don't need to buy this book to take something away from this video, but we are going to return to it for examples and ideas as we go. First though, we're going back in time. Wait, not that far. I meant like the 1970s. Dinosaurs have been in D&D since pretty much the very beginning. In the Advanced Dungeons & Dragons Monster Manual, which was published in 1977, there's a whole section for dinosaurs with 28 different stat blocks. There must have been a second mass extinction since, because the new 5th edition Monster Manual only has 7.
I was amazed when you sent me the list. I was like, that's it? Out of the 7, we have to delete 3 of them because they're not dinosaurs. Archelon, which is a turtle, Plesiosaurus, the Eurypterids are their own thing. Pteranodon is on there too, also not a dinosaur, a big flying reptile, very close cousin to dinosaurs.
I stand corrected, it only has 4.
My name is Erin LaCount, and I'm the Education Programs Director at Dinosaur Ridge. I've been working at Dinosaur Ridge in Morrison, Colorado for 23 years. We're a smallish nonprofit museum with a big footprint, literally and figuratively, with our being the #1 dinosaur track site in the nation.
You have a staff D&D game at Dinosaur Ridge?
Yeah, we have averaged 1.5 games per year so far.
Classic D&D problem. Yes, this is becoming a Ginny interviews people about dinosaurs channel. Hope you're into it. It's no wonder we're fascinated by dinosaurs. They show up over and over again in our stories about monsters, about the power and mysteries of nature. Jurassic Park, Dinotopia, The Land That Time Forgot. There are approximately 600 movies titled Jurassic something, like Jurassic Shark 2 Aquapocalypse, because Jurassic Shark 1 clearly wasn't enough. In the introduction to Dr. Drolin's Dictionary of Dinosaurs, the authors mention that paleontology is a gateway science. For a lot of us, dinosaurs are our first brush with science that makes us feel excited and curious. Every kid has a favorite dinosaur, and every adult that I want to talk to at a party. And honestly, it's kind of insane that they were real. Like, we had something in our world that was basically a dragon or a Tarrasque or a Hydra, but it actually existed.
The cultures of our indigenous peoples have had fossils that have led to their mythos. So you find a 4,000-year-old creature in Europe that has one giant eyeball hole in the middle of its forehead with a massive head, and you go, that's a cyclops. Well, that's a mammoth. That's the nose. But they've never seen that before. So dinosaurs aren't as separated from fantasy as we like to think they are, I think.
When we include dinosaurs in our fantasy worlds, we're bringing our real world and our fantasy a little closer together. We get to feel that awe and wonder over our actual planet. I don't know, I just think that's kind of neat. Of course, it romanticizes science isn't enough of a selling point for everyone, but there's also a practical game design reason to include dinosaurs in D&D. Since in 5th edition, they're categorized as beasts, they're eligible for things like a druid's wild shape and the spell polymorph. Wild shape is great at low levels when turning into a direwolf feels very powerful, but by the time you hit late game, most beasts just don't hold up. Dinosaurs are some of the strongest beast options available. Plus, imagine the face of an enemy who expected to fight like a bear and instead gets full body tackled by a triceratops. That's the kind of game design I can get behind. But Ginny, you're probably saying, how do we explain why dinosaurs are in our medieval fantasy land in the first place? We need some lore here. D&D players will accept pretty much anything as long as it's got lore. The AD&D Monster Manual explains that dinosaurs might be found on some alternate world, strange plane, or isolated continent somewhere, which is game design speak for, I don't know, you figure it out. But soon they start to appear in adventures, like 1981's The Isle of Dread, and get their own lore. It all tends to be very The Lost World, not the Jurassic Park sequel, the book by Sir Arthur Conan Doyle in which dinosaurs still survive in some lost pocket of dense jungle, like Chult, an isolated tropical island in the Forgotten Realms. These days, it's probably best known as the setting for Tomb of Annihilation, a campaign where the only thing deadlier than the dinosaurs is, well, basically everything else. You can expect to go through at least a couple characters playing that module. In our world, dinosaurs were wiped out by an asteroid, but in the Forgotten Realms, it was a primordial dragon goddess literally throwing a moon at the planet. So more or less the same thing. This event was called the Tearfall, and only a few dinosaurs survived it, which is why when you're walking around Faerun, you don't just run into an Allosaurus on your tavern crawl, unless you've been really annoying your DM. And of course, that's just one of D&D's worlds. In Eberron, dinosaurs never had an extinction event at all. They just got driven out of some areas by humanoid settlements. Oh, and tamed by halflings, who claim to have a spiritual bond with their dinosaur mounts. They're basically horse girls, if horses were 20 feet tall and carnivorous. Did dinosaurs live in jungles/rainforests, and did they only live in jungles/rainforests?
Dinosaurs lived on all 7 continents. We find fossils on all 7 continents, and yes, that includes Antarctica. There were plenty of dinosaurs that lived in jungles, for sure. They were amazingly diverse animals that were able to really adapt to varying different environments.
If you're planning to include more than one dinosaur encounter in your game, the dinos in a rainforest trope can get old fast. Real dinosaurs lived in a wide variety of environments, so there's no reason that yours shouldn't do the same. If you want to take inspiration from science, you can look up what types of dinosaurs would have thrived in different climates, or you can just get creative. Raptors in the Arctic, maybe they've got a thick layer of fat for insulation. Maybe they hibernate under the ice. That would be a hell of a surprise round. And of course, if you want the cheat code, you can turn to Dr. Drolin's Dictionary of Dinosaurs. It has an environment table, so you can match dinosaurs to any terrain. So for that campaign in the frozen north, Babyalsaurus from the Yixian Formation in China is a great pick. Its feathers kept it warm. Just be careful not to show your players the art, because the moment I saw this face, I'd be adopting a half dozen theropods. The book also has 4 detailed prehistoric settings that you can drop into your own games, based on some of the biggest real-world fossil formations. There's descriptions of their landscapes, flora and fauna, hazards, and even optional magical rules to make the history a little more historical fantasy. Take the Crato Formation in Brazil. 120 million years ago, it was a wetland oasis in the desert. The water was stratified, fresh water on top, salt water below. Weather effects are also covered, in this case mostly hot sun, but also sudden heavy storms that caused flash floods, just in case the dinosaurs aren't deadly enough. The book includes plants that would have grown there, like a water lily with edible roots and hallucinogenic flowers, which is perfect since D&D players are constantly trying to find drugs. No? Just my party? Great. The wildlife includes Crato avis, a tiny theropod that looks like a modern bird but has little teeth and claws on its wings, and Tupandactylus, a pterosaur with a truly ridiculous head crest. Like, come on, he's gotta be compensating for something, right? If you really want to break out of the dinos in the jungle cliche, this book is invaluable. Every dinosaur includes information about its habitat, so you can always find one to suit wherever your game takes you. Sometimes you weren't planning on including a prehistoric creature, but your players made choices. And now, the only thing that makes sense is a Hatzegopteryx. My new favorite random table has 1 row, and it's a CR14 pterosaur with a 40-foot wingspan. With only 4 dinosaur stat blocks in the 5th edition Monster Manual, there's no way we're giving a fair shake to almost 200 million years worth of creatures. That would be like having a section for Earth creatures and only including a moose, a goldfish, and my neighbor Steve. Behold, Earth's fauna.
I mean, there aren't a ton. Where are your duckbills? Where are your small-bodied dinosaurs? Where are your flying dinosaurs? Yeah, where's the Spino? Where's the Velociraptor? Where's all of our little feathered ankle biters, right? We need those. It is very limited in what you can do with the official dino stuff.
If you want dinosaurs to be a valid choice for more than a handful of encounters, it's time to start homebrewing, or maybe revisit AD&D and adapt some of their 28 stat blocks. But if you really want a broad array of dinos and prehistoric critters to choose from, Dr. Drolin's Dictionary of Dinosaurs has a whopping 57 options for you, from CR 1/8 all the way up to 14, or even 18 if you use the optional magic rules. Take the Erythrosuchus, a large, four-legged predator with a massive skull, powerful jaws, and stubby little limbs, like if a corgi and a crocodile had a deeply unsettling baby. As a non-magical beast, it's CR 8 and can multi-attack with its monstrous jaw, but the real fun starts with its legendary actions, which are ominously titled Ripping Thrash and Drag Away. And if you use the optional magic rules, it levels up to CR 9 and gains Maw of Madness, which forces creatures it bites to make a wisdom save or have their intelligence score temporarily reduced to 3. It's the same save you make if you scroll TikTok for more than an hour. Trust me, you don't want to risk it. All of the stat blocks are this detailed, with each one describing what we know of the creature's behavior and even including tips on how to use them. But if you need further inspiration, there's a whole chapter on dinosaur behavior with rolling tables to help you decide if your carnivore is territorial or an opportunistic feeder or even waiting in ambush. If you wanted to run an entire campaign with just prehistoric creatures as your monsters, you could absolutely do it with this book. Or if you're not quite that committed to the dino life, you could just pick out a few to surprise experienced players and be really generous with your druid. They say there's no greater gift than friendship, but I'm pretty sure whoever said that has never put a level 13 moon druid face to face with a Carnotaurus. Do you feel like those stat blocks are an accurate representation of dinosaurs?
Probably not. And just looking at the Allosaurus stat blocks, I look at it and I'm like, wow, a 19 strength for something that has hollow bird-like bones and a very hollow skull with not very big teeth, but super long arms and 3 big killing claws on its hands. I would go more dexterous. I will sometimes write up their own stat blocks. An Allosaurus, I will give a little bit more dex to make him a little bit skinnier, put him in a pack and have like a group attack. Would be kind of terrifying, but also kind of fun.
Each one of these stat blocks is accompanied with thoroughly cited research, but also the writers behind Dr. Drolin's have broken out of the typical D&D stat block design when it supports a more realistic representation of each creature. For example, instead of every dinosaur having natural armor listed next to its AC, they have specified skin, fur, or feathers, which is great because I need to know if I'm fighting a furry friend or an oversized battle chicken. In 5th edition, dinosaurs aren't magical, they're beasts, and they appear more or less like we popularly assume that they were in real life. But let's be honest, if we're putting dinosaurs into a high fantasy world with magic spells and mermaids and stuff, we're already diverging from historical accuracy. So why stop there? This is just my opinion, but I think we should feel just as comfortable making stuff up when it comes to dinosaurs as we do for any other creature. We're doing this for fun, and if that means that your T-Rex has a breath weapon, then so be it. They didn't brush their teeth. That sounds like halitosis damage to me.
Do you think it matters if our depictions of dinosaurs in fantasy are accurate? But also, what do you think the scientific knowledge of dinosaurs can bring positively to our games?
I don't think it's super important that dinosaurs be very accurate. That's a kind of thing that can inspire people to learn new and different things. But if you want to have the Jurassic Park T-Rex, which is not accurate, and that's okay. If you want to have the Jurassic Park T-Rex be what's in your campaign, terrorizing your villagers, go for it, do that. Do that, please.
Dr. Drolin's Dictionary of Dinosaurs can be educational, but it can also be inspirational. Just because it's full of real research doesn't mean you have to take all that research as gospel for your game. Even the paleontologists behind the book clearly had a blast incorporating magic into their ideas. There are massive mutation tables in case you want your dinosaurs to be experimented on by a mad wizard or warped by chaotic magic. Want a velociraptor with toxic secretions? Done. A stegosaurus the size of a house cat? Who doesn't? Every dinosaur in the book has optional magical rules that make them stronger, and even the prehistoric plants have optional magical effects. There are also some humanoid dinosaur species that you can use as NPCs, so you'd better start figuring out your dinosaur voice now. You know how I mentioned earlier in the video that halflings in Eberron go full How to Train Your Dragon and bond spiritually with their dinosaur mounts? That's cool. You know what's not cool? There is no player option for that. Even if you play a halfling in Eberron, if you want to ride a dinosaur, you have to jury-rig Beastmaster Ranger or Cavalier Fighter and just hope that your DM is willing to play ball. Since dinosaurs are beasts, you can already use animal handling as well as spells like animal friendship or speak with animals to interact with dinosaurs. So it's not like you can't tame or domesticate dinosaurs in standard D&D. But Dr. Drolins includes more specific guidance for taming and domesticating and even riding dinosaurs using something called a howdah, which are those carriages that they used to put on elephants and camels. So not only can you be a dino rider, you can put your whole party on top of a big ol' sauropod. That's how you make an entrance. But whether you pick up this book or not, I am begging you, just let your players ride dinosaurs. Just let them do it. Come on, it's so cool. Don't you want them to be happy? Okay, we've covered why you might want to include dinosaurs, what environments they can live in, all the types of dinosaurs you can use, how to make them a little more magical, and even how to tame and ride them. But other than the relatively obscure lore that D&D has already provided us, we still don't have much clarity on how to explain the presence of dinosaurs in a high fantasy setting. And until we can explain it, we don't have the context that we need to understand how they fit into the world. Are they common, naturally occurring in the wild, domesticated and farmed, used as mounts or trained weapons? Are they rare and mysterious to the point of myth? When did they originate and why are they still here? There are countless fun options, but if you want dinosaurs to show up as more than a one-off jungle adventure for the sole purpose of making a few clever girl jokes, I think you should make a firm decision about it. There are whole competing theories in Forgotten Realms lore about dinosaurs as planar travelers, dinosaurs as an early ancestor of dragons, dinosaurs as an invention of the creator races in the Days of Thunder. Maybe just like in our real world, people study them but don't know for sure if their theories are right. Or you can take the opposite route and go for the pulpy, familiar themes from the dinosaur media that your players know and love. This book suggests ready-made hooks for easy use, an isolated plateau where a prehistoric ecosystem was preserved, a chronophysor opening portals through time, an island where a cult is raising extinct dinosaurs from the dead. Who among us could resist having the party meet a cheerful old necromancer with a cane who keeps saying, "We spared no expense"? I went into this video thinking, yeah, dinosaurs are cool, but I don't know if I want them in my D&D games. Well, after reading this book, interviewing an expert, and rewatching Prehistoric Planet with David Attenborough, I am prepared to rage quit if my next character doesn't get a pet Microraptor. If you feel the same way, Dr. Drolin's Dictionary of Dinosaurs is an incredible resource. The link is in the description, and don't forget the Kickstarter is live for their second book, which means even more dinosaurs, prehistoric environments, and, I assume, brand new reasons to always carry a sword. But even if you're just dabbling in dinosaurs, maybe think outside the box a little. Not every dinosaur encounter has to be the same 3 creatures on the same island jungle. Dinosaurs are weird and wonderful and diverse, and we can absolutely do better than treating them like scaly set dressing. They deserve more. They might even deserve a breath weapon.
This is slightly off topic, but I did a video the other week where I talked about weird materials to make dice from.
Well, what about if the bones are from a velociraptor, or a T-Rex, or a megalodon?
Do you think that those dice are A, authentic, and B, if they are authentic, is it ethical to get dice that are made from dinosaur bone fossils?
Velociraptor bone, no. Mongolia is closed. It has been since the it has been for a very long time. Megalodons are sharks. They're fish. They're cartilage. Most of the time you don't get bones from them, but you do have teeth, right? T-Rex bone probably isn't unheard of. There are plenty of late Cretaceous private dinosaur quarries across the western US. If you can't vet them, don't buy from them. I own a small dinosaur bone D20. You find a bone in a ditch and you don't know where it's come from. It is a chunk of who knows what. If that's private land and they want to sell that to a company that wants to turn them into D20s, have at it. I don't think ethically owning a piece of the past is something that we should at all be ashamed for.